I'm Pat Doris. Welcome to The Story. All the ways to communicate with us right there in the middle of your screen. You can email us. The address is thestory@kgw.com. You could use the hashtag TheStoryKGW on Twitter, or you could leave us a voicemail. Call our phone number, 503-226-5090. I know this is Memorial Day, but today also marks the 20th anniversary of one of the most spectacular climbing disasters ever on Mount Hood. I was there in Sky 8, our news helicopter, watching the rescue effort for climbers who had fallen high up on the mountain, and I watched as the rescue helicopter suddenly crashed. It's a moment that I and many others will never forget.
God, I can't believe it's been 20 years. It does. I don't know, there's part of me that wants to say it seems like it was yesterday, and then there's part of me that's like, God, that was so long ago and whatnot, but...
20 years ago, Steve Rollins from Portland Mountain Rescue led an effort on Mount Hood that he'll never forget. Thursday, May 30th, 2002, dawned a bright, beautiful day, perfect for climbing Mount Hood. Several climbers were on the south side of the mountain that morning, around 10,900 feet. It's the most popular route for climbers. Around 9 a.m., some groups were on their way down from the top, others still going up. Many were above the crevasse, which opens each spring, called a bergschrund. It had a snow bridge across it. A team of 4 men roped together were on their way down. The sheriff's office reported one of the men lost their footing and fell, pulling the other 3 down, even as they tried to stop themselves. The 4 hit 2 other men climbing up and also roped together, and they too began tumbling down the mountain. The 6 hit 3 other climbers also on their way up and also roped together, and all 9 fell into the 50-foot wide, 20-foot deep crevasse. 3 men died: Bill Ward, Rick Reed, and John Biggs. 4 others were critically hurt. Rollins and many others rushed to the mountain to help.
And I just remember the chaos. Like, we were scrambling to keep up with the helicopters. The helicopters were coming in almost on top of each other.
The helicopters were from the Oregon National Guard. They airlifted 2 injured climbers to safety. Another helicopter from the Air Force, a Pavehawk, was there as well at Timberline's parking lot. It was going to fly a pararescue crew partway up the mountain, and then they would climb the rest of the way to the rescue scene. But as they prepared, the crew got word a hurt climber at the crevasse was on the edge of death. Brent Dicely was the Air Force pilot at the controls. I talked with him in 2012. It's the only TV interview he's done. He and his crew knew their heavy helicopter would be on the edge of its safety limit that high on the mountain. They decided to go for it anyway.
That's what we were doing that day on the mountain. You know, we were right at the edge of our operating capability.
And most of the time,
yeah,
that's okay.
Yeah, most of the time. And unfortunately, that day, Mother Nature had other plans for us, and I guess the video shows the rest.
Oh, brother, does it ever.
We have live team coverage this afternoon.
I was reporting on the rescue effort from Sky 8, our helicopter. We were live on the air waiting for a rescue basket to be lowered to the crevasse. Suddenly, the wind shifted from the front of the chopper to the back, and it lost lift. Without lift, helicopters cannot fly.
Look out, guys. There we are talking about things going wrong. Hang on, fellas. Oh, my goodness. Oh, that is horrible.
Dicely, the pilot,
I realized I don't have control of that helicopter anymore.
made a split-second decision to fly away from the crevasse.
When you see the tail bobble and then the tail swing, that's basically when I knew things were going south.
You had said earlier you could have avoided the crash, right?
We could have avoided the crash and come down, but beneath us are 20-odd people below us, so then you're in worse condition. So rather than have a huge tragedy there, I chose to take it down the mountain and try to get away from the folks.
Oh God, here we go.
Remember the pararescue team? They were still in the back of the helicopter.
There's Martin. Yeah, Martin's out. Now he got chopped, and then there's me.
10 years ago, they watched the video again to share what it was like. Andrew Canfield stood in the back of the helicopter, harnessed in, ready to get the patient. The mountain was so close.
Yeah, I was gonna jump out.
You're gonna jump out.
As soon as it started kind of like wobbling and moving around, yeah, that was my first thought. I was like, I'm out.
He unclipped his safety harness, but in an instant the jump was much too far. As the chopper began to roll, he grabbed onto fellow PJ Darren Shore, who later became a firefighter.
I could see gear, packs, snow, all kind of churning around. And I use the sock and a dryer analogy for that one.
Round and round they went.
I had this really elaborate plan where I was going to grab onto something and kind of shimmy up and jump out the door as, it rotated around. Never worked out.
Physics eventually shot Canfield out of the helicopter.
As we started to roll, the centrifugal force increased, and I kind of got outstretched until I just couldn't hang on anymore. And that's when I, popped and it ejected me out of the aircraft.
That's him in the circle. It was almost like a scene from a movie.
When I got ejected from the helicopter, I felt like, oh, thank God, I'm free of the helicopter. I'm going to be okay. Just an instant after that, I realized that I was downhill from the helicopter and that it was overtaking me. I rolled like 8 times before it rolled over me.
Incredibly, the soft snow allowed him to survive. The engine cover burned him, and he had back and neck injuries. Shore had a broken leg and broken ribs and also survived, and a third PJ survived as well. The helicopter rolled 8 times before stopping. Despite the many people nearby, the shattering blades did not hit anyone. Later, the Air Force lifted that crashed Pavehawk off the mountain and eventually put it back in service. 20 years later, it's still a tragedy for the families of those who died on Mount Hood, and a day the many rescue crews will never forget.
That's something that I'll remember to the day I die.
It is amazing that no one died in the chopper crash. The Air Force did rebuild that chopper, and it flew combat missions in Afghanistan, and then it was finally shot down in 2010. The pilot who was at the controls during the Mount Hood crash has since retired from the Air Force and now flies for Federal Express. I was able to catch up with him, but he was not interested in an on-camera interview. And then late today, just a little bit ago on the phone, I talked with Martin Mills. He was the flight engineer in the back of the chopper, and I heard his amazing story. He was attached to some webbing called a gunner's belt and was trapped half in and half out of the helicopter as it rolled over him 4 times. He's still living with pain as a result of that day 20 years ago. We'll be adding him to our story at kgw.com. You should go check it out. Now to the surprise intersection of TEDx Portland, Oregon gubernatorial candidate Betsy Johnson, and the nation's debate over gun laws. TEDx Portland is facing criticism after adding an unannounced interview with Johnson at its event Saturday. Investigative reporter Evan Watson was there for fun and ended up recording the frustration of the crowd. Evan, how'd this all play out?
Well, I can tell you the thousands of attendees had no idea Betsy Johnson would be speaking. It was tense, and the anger of a lot of people grew as that talk went on. Now, TEDx Portland, a nonprofit organization, could be in trouble for giving a political candidate preferential treatment.
Okay. We wanted this. We wanted energy. We've arrived in that, right?
TEDx Portland host David Ray scrambled as audience members shouted for non-affiliated Oregon gubernatorial candidate Betsy Johnson to address gun laws in light of recent mass shootings. Johnson has voted against expanded background checks and a red flag law in Oregon and previously received an A rating from the NRA. Eventually, Ray asked Johnson to answer the calls from some of the thousands in attendance at the Moda Center. She started by saying she's a gun owner who has represented gun owners in a rural district, before pivoting the discussion to mental health problems.
I think that we have so divided this debate on gun, no gun, that we're losing track of some of that stuff in the middle ground. And that stuff in the middle ground is, we have, by any definition, a mental health system.
But the cheers didn't last long, as more people yelled that she was avoiding the topic of gun control.
Stop.
The style of the gun doesn't dictate the lethality, but I think...
Ray explained event organizers decided to add an unannounced sit-down with Johnson 2 weeks ago, before attempting to end the session by praising Johnson's work ethic, which frustrated more people.
I know you're up at 4 in the morning working, right? It's not a campaign.
TEDx Portland apologized after the event, saying having a potential political candidate on our stage this morning was not the right decision. We apologize for the error in judgment and the distraction this moment created. As part of a statement, Johnson said, while the vast majority of people were supportive, a few folks tried to shut down productive dialogue, and that's unfortunate. Democratic candidate for governor Tina Kotek said she wasn't invited to speak, adding, "I'm disgusted by the way Senator Betsy Johnson dismissed concerns about deadly firearms." Republican candidate Christine Drazen didn't answer our request for comment. After the interview with Johnson ended, the next speaker at TEDx Portland received one of the largest cheers of the night.
Can we just have some background checks? Can we not sell assault rifles to 18-year-olds?
Super interesting, Evan. Now let's talk about this nonprofit status.
Yeah, well, federal laws say nonprofits must give equal opportunity for all political candidates to speak if one's invited to talk at an event. Even though Ray introduced Johnson as a candidate for governor and she's been running as a candidate openly since last fall, there could be a caveat here. As a non-affiliated candidate collecting voter signatures, the state still needs to formally approve Johnson to get on the ballot this fall. That could play a role if challenged.
So I could see a lawyer really getting into this and saying, well, of course, everybody knows that she's a candidate, but until she gets those signatures and she's not officially put into the ballot by the state, she's not really legally, technically a candidate. And maybe that's what gets them off the hook.
That's how I see it right now. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Evan. On this Memorial Day, we're remembering those who served and reliving World War II history with an Oregon man who lived through it.
I got stories I could tell till hell freezes over.
We will listen to him tell some of those stories when the story continues. Welcome back. Keep sending your questions and comments to the story at kgw.com. I was just checking. There's already many coming in, so if you want to talk to us about Betsy Johnson or the Mount Hood crash, bring it on. And by the way, there's one from Katie that I want to just respond to. She thought that in the original video, I uttered a 4-letter word during that coverage 20 years ago. And Katie, you must be thinking of somebody else because I really didn't. I had little kids at the time and I had banned that language from my vocabulary. So it just came out the way that you saw it on TV there. These days might be a little bit different, but not then. So you could also give us a call and leave a voicemail at 503-226-5090. Well, this is Memorial Day, and it's much more than a three-day weekend. We're remembering loved ones who served in the military and are no longer alive. I think it's a celebration of service and sacrifice of the women and men who've kept us free. They may have died during their service or decades later. Doesn't matter to me at all. All around our area, many pause to remember and say thank you. This was the Willamette National Cemetery earlier today on Mount Scott in Portland. There were bagpipes and flowers and flags and gatherings of people who attended the ceremony and, as we said, just remembered. This, by the way, is someone named Robin Barrett. I met him back in 2019. He was a World War II veteran who died from COVID 2 years ago at the Veterans Home east of Corvallis. He lived to the age of 95, and he lived a life worth remembering. East of Corvallis, inside the Oregon Veterans Home in Lebanon. 94-year-old Robin Barrett.
I like people.
Exudes a playful spirit.
I'm funny, but I like people. I've had a lot of fun over the time of life.
He's lived enough for 2 lifetimes.
No, I fell into a place in my life where I met a lot of people that most people don't get a chance to meet. 5 presidents of the United States.
More about what led to that in a bit.
Yeah.
These days, he keeps a bottle of Gatorade close.
The only thing I drink.
Is that right?
Yeah, I don't drink water.
Oh.
It'll rust your plumbing. No.
And likes to stay active.
I'm in pretty good shape for the shape I'm in.
It's why he volunteers to greet children at Pioneer School, right next door to the Veterans Home.
Yeah, they come up, some of them 1 arm, some of them 2 arms, you know. Some of them, they'll greet me any way possible. Really will, you know, and it's fun.
Life has not always been this carefree.
I got stories I can tell till hell freezes over.
He was 17 when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor. His mother allowed him to join the Marines. Just a few months later, he was learning to jump out of airplanes. He barely survived the training. On the very first flight, instructors would test the Marines to see if they would really jump, catching them just before they left the plane.
My turn came, I hooked up, came down, made a right turn, hit in their pocket, they missed me and I was gone. With no instructions about what to do or how to do it or a dang thing. What happens to you when the ground comes up to meet you? When I got down there, they said, how many jumps have you made? I never jumped in my life before, and I don't think I jumped this time. I fell out.
He survived and became a mortar man, carrying the heavy base plate used with mortars. One day in combat, it saved his life.
Weighed 82 pounds, solid steel. And at the end of the day, somebody very politely said to me, oh, Rob, what happened to your base plate? Nothing happened to my base plate. Suggest that you flip it over and take a look at the bottom. And you could see where a damn little machine gun had walked right across that sucker. And you know whose head was right behind it. I mean, close, yeah. Lots of close ones. But survived the whole dang bunch of them.
74 years ago, he was part of the U.S. assault of Iwo Jima. It was a heavily fortified island the Japanese used to issue early warnings to their mainland when American bombers were approaching.
I had never seen that many naval craft in my life, anywhere. The morning we woke up and they were all there. And then hearing the 16-inch cannon shells go over your head. They don't whistle. They go thumpity, 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 thump. Crash!
It proved a terrible fight, with 2,400 Marines killed.
Yeah, everybody was scared. I didn't find an atheist anywhere. They were in short number if there were any at all. No, it was all, save me, God. God, save me, please. No.
Thousands of Japanese died as well.
We had to spend the whole night with 2,500 dead Japanese, 200 feet away from us, just stacked up like cordwood.
He remembers later watching as the historic flag raising took place on Mount Suribachi.
just on the side of the doggone hill, and I took a look up on the top, and I saw a bunch of activity up there, and all of a sudden I saw the little bitty flag. That's the first one that went up. The one that hardly anybody knows anything about, because it was just a war-torn flag and it was a small one.
Later, he saw the bigger flag raised. It became one of the most iconic moments and iconic images of World War II.
Just after I saw it go up, I was in a big crater hole, and I just rolled over, and then I had a talk with the skipper. And I said, "Hey, guy, just get me out of all this damn foolishness, you know? And if you ever need me, give me a call."
39 years later, he felt that call and became an Episcopal priest in a small town east of Klamath Falls called Bonanza. Along the way, he and his wife raised 3 sons and a daughter. He worked as a printer, dedicated decades to the VFW, and later the Scouts. These days, life moves at a slower pace.
Where you going? Oh, to school.
But Robin keeps the same optimistic outlook.
When you can make people laugh, I figure I've got my job pretty well done.
He's kept his willingness to serve and to share his extraordinary life. You're a living piece of history.
Well, I'm a living piece.
He was quite a character. You probably had loved ones like him in your life. We're thankful for each of them on this Memorial Day. Memorial Day as we know it didn't officially become a federal holiday until 1971, but it has a long history before that. So, how did we get here? Humans have been honoring their fallen soldiers for thousands of years, at least since the ancient Greeks and Romans, who held Remembrance Days every year. In the United States, different communities started holding their own version of Memorial Day during the Civil War. One happened in 1865 in Charleston, South Carolina, when recently freed slaves organized a ceremony to honor fallen Union soldiers. In other cities, women came together to decorate graves. It became even more common after President Lincoln was assassinated. In 1868, the leader of a group of Northern Civil War veterans designated May 30th as Decoration Day. Northern states made this a holiday, but Southern states chose to honor fallen Confederate soldiers on a different day. After World War II, more people started calling the holiday Memorial Day. In 1968, Congress decided to make it a federal holiday on the last Monday in May to create a 3-day weekend. That took effect in 1971. So what's the difference between Memorial Day and Veterans Day? Memorial Day honors soldiers who have died in battle, while Veterans Day honors those who are still living. Veterans Day on November 11th coincides with the end of World War I. On that date, just to make it a little more confusing, the UK and other Commonwealth countries hold Remembrance Day, which is more like our Memorial Day here in the US. And that's how we got here. 34 years ago, Paul Allen bought the Portland Trail Blazers basketball team. When we come back, why the team will be sold in a year and a half, maybe even sooner, when the story continues. Welcome back. Let's take a few minutes and talk about the Portland Trail Blazers. The basketball team's coming off a real lousy season. You probably knew that. But did you also know they'll soon be sold? Microsoft co-owner Paul Allen owned the team up until his death in 2018, but his trust stipulated that all of his assets had to be sold off after he died so that the money can fund other projects. Columnist John Canzano has been following this closely. He talked to our Orlando Sanchez this weekend on Sports Sunday. Canzano says the sale is likely to happen in the next 18 months, and the list of potential buyers is pretty short.
Get this, Orlando. The price tag for the Blazers, I'm told the target is $3 billion, right? When Paul Allen passed away in 2018, the team was valued at $1.7 billion. So this is an asset here that has appreciated significantly in that time. And, you know, for Blazer fans, this could be a good thing. But yes, the team will be sold. There's no wiggle room. It's just a matter of what timing, and who buys it.
That's a lot of money. So who's got that kind of cheddar to fund something like that?
Yeah, it's a very short list. And so the firm that is handling that auction for the Denver Broncos is called Allen and Company. No relation to the Allen family. But I'm told they put together a book for the Broncos, for example, and a very limited list of potential bidders will see that book. It'll be the same in the Blazers case. So, you know, there is a very limited number of people who are in the market for sports teams at this price point. Some private equity firms could get involved, but some people to keep an eye on if you're a Blazer fan. Larry Ellison, the co-founder of Oracle, 3 other times he's tried to buy teams, including the Warriors, including the Milwaukee Bucks. Keep an eye on Larry Ellison. Also, an interesting name surfaced in this. Lorraine Jobs, the widow of Steve Jobs, the Apple co-founder, she's had a big-time interest in the WNBA. She is a part of an investment group that has invested in the WNBA. I'm told that Adam Silver would love to have a majority owner who is a woman who is into the WNBA as well as the NBA, and she really fits the bill. She seems to have the interest. She seems to have the ear of Adam Silver, and that's important in this because it's not just having the $3 billion. The league itself has to approve you. So this is a very short list, and it's very exclusive. I would expect both of those people, Lorraine Powell Jobs and Larry Ellison, to be among those who would see that book as part of the auction.
Interesting stuff. Canzano thinks there's a chance the team could be moved, but he says it's pretty unlikely. You can watch the rest of the Canzano conversation with Orlando right now on our KGW YouTube page. Keep sending your questions and comments to the story at kgw.com. Still ahead, how you can help your community. For this week's Hey Help campaign, we're asking you to donate to PDX Saints Love. They help people experiencing homelessness and addiction in Portland. The group puts on community fairs where they offer things like showers, haircuts, clothing, hot food, and other resources. They also provide mentorship to people who want to get off the street. If you want to help out, just hold up your phone's camera to the QR code there on your screen, or you can always go to kgw.com/heyhelp. This is a micro donation drive, so feel free to give any amount, no matter how big or how small. Well, that's the end of our program. Thanks for watching. Thanks for